Hey everybody, it's Eddie J on Crypto for GrowMyBag.tv. Hope you're having a good one. What's good, what's good, what's good? So yeah, you want to know what happened? You want to know what happened? Do you really want to know what happened? So October 31st, Friday, late Friday, what happened? Yeah, it's true. The U.S. Federal Reserve injected $29.4 billion via repo operations. Now, to me, that tells me banks are in trouble. Well, one of two things. Let's say it like that. There are one of two things that are going on, right? Some banks could be in trouble. Some banks could be overextended, meaning they've got a lot of cash out there and they don't have a lot of cash on hand. And as we all know, you need to have cash on hand to be able to handle business, to be able to cover your bills, things like that, right? But via that repo market, we are looking at banks that I mean, $29.4 billion injected, and that's the most since the dot-com era. Let that wash over you for a minute. That's the most single-day injection since the dot-com era. I want you to let that wash over you for a minute and think about that timing since the dot-com era. That's way back. That's way, way back. Okay, so think about everything that's transpired since then, and you have to start to ask yourself, wait a minute, that's before the pandemic. Well, wait a minute, that's also before the bank crash. So I'm paying attention to it, and truth be told, I'm waiting to hear what regional banks are going to have issues. That's something I'm looking at. I'm just kind of sitting there and kind of going, yeah, we've got to be seeing that in the what regional banks are going to have issues. That's something I'm looking at. I'm just kind of sitting there and kind of going, yeah, we've got to be seeing that in the relatively near future. That this regional bank is having an issue, that regional bank is having an issue. I just feel it. It's not a gut feeling. It's just like a spidey sense kind of tingling. You know what I mean? What else do we have going on? U.S. Treasury Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent says that as soon as Wednesday, you could see SNAP benefits back in place. Why is this a question? Why did it come to this? And good morning, Max Salas. What's good? So for me, you saying that, oh, everything could be, everything for SNAP could be reinstated by Wednesday. Why was this a problem? And you know what really gets me? Most of the people on SNAP, they're not who you think they are. They're not who you think they are. And you want to know where I think the pressure comes in at? I think the government spends about $8 billion a month on SNAP benefits. Okay. Walmart gets about 26 point something of that money. Where do you see Walmarts? Where are the bulk of the Walmarts out there? That's who's using the SNAP benefits. So you shoot yourself in the foot by messing that up. And you do this as the holidays quickly approach. Brilliant. Now, so that's an internal economic issue, right? Hold that thought. On the international side, what do we have? We have some nice talks that happened with China. Anything rock solid? Not really. They've kind of called a truce for something that shouldn't have happened to begin with. But China's hedging its bets, right? They made a purchase, or they're going to be making a purchase of some soybeans. Not nearly at the level that they used to. And farmers will wind up planting, and then they'll be over that barrel again, having planted more. So could we see another impact next year? Similarly, because this pact is only going to last 365 days. Now, during this pact, you want to know who else is now suffering, who's now number one with tariffs? India. India is getting hit twice, once on tariffs and once on the new H-1B visa issue. It's at the point where TCS, Tata Consulting Services, is saying in the United States, they're not going to go for any more H-1B visas. That's sending a message throughout the tech industry, because that's who's mostly leveraging those H-1B visas. Interesting, no? It's interesting to me, because I want to know, how is my money being leveraged? How are all these things going to affect my bag? So when I look at these things, I sit there and I kind of go, oh, that's cute. That's cute. Now, I don't think we should be giving away, so many jobs to India. That's just me. But the world, we're not the only country. The world seems to be outsourcing jobs to India. That's not the brightest thing in the world. Why aren't you training your people? So you want your people to be dumb while everybody in India gets the education so they can keep taking these offshore jobs or these outsourced jobs? That doesn't sound smart to me. That does not sound smart to me at all. So I think there's a bigger issue when it comes to India. And India is not doing anything wrong. I want you to really think about that. China's not doing anything wrong. India's not doing anything wrong. We chose to give up our manufacturing, and we're choosing to give up our technology jobs. Those are choices. Those are conscious, profit-driven choices by companies around the world that want to turn more profit. Okay. Wait until you sit back and realize that, holy moly, our intellectual property is now no longer in country. That's going to be a massive problem. And frankly, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not interested in investing in companies. I mean, I'm not Lotus, so what I say doesn't matter, right? But I'm not interested in investing in companies that are on the road to giving away intellectual property. I'm not interested in investing in companies that don't see fit to hire and train in country. I just don't. That's just me. But, so I'm looking at all these economic moves, right? Domestic and foreign. And I'm saying we've got some problems going on. I'm just saying, we've got some issues going on. What else is actually happening? European Commission proposed expanding ESMA's authority to regulate stock and crypto exchanges. Why? They're taking a CFTC, SEC kind of approach to it. Or they want to. These are bills that are saying, hey, this is what we'd like to do. It still has to be passed. But that's going to be interesting if they actually do that. Remember what I said, or when I said that what we do here affects the rest of the world, what the rest of the world does affects here? This is one of those things. They're looking at how we're managing things, and we might not be 100% correct, but the setup might be right, is what they're saying. You might be taking a long time to implement regulations and everything like that, but the setup that you have could be the right one, and we're interested in doing something like that. Now that would be an interesting move, right? Swift Digital Asset Bank, Amina, secured an Austrian MiCA license. That gets them into the EU. Zero Hash got their MiCA license, getting them access to 30 plus EEA countries. That's a big deal. Now, Zero Hash should be a name that should be familiar to you. And the reason why is because apparently MasterCard is thinking about buying them to the tune of possibly $2 billion. That's very interesting. And they're working with a lot of banks to help those banks get into crypto. Yeah. Now, I want you to think about this. MasterCard is thinking about buying Zero Hash, like buying them, lock, stock, and barrel, for only somewhere between $1 and $2 billion. I want you to think about this. How many times have you guys heard me say that companies like this should get bought by banks? because it'll get them there sooner. The optics would be beautiful. So what happened? People, different banks probably running around kicking the tires, seeing if that's something that they should do. SoFi and I think Morgan Stanley invested in Zero Hash, and MasterCard is just swooping in, seems to be swooping in and just saying, "No, we're going to snatch that up. We're going to do that." So if that actually closes, that's going to be huge because the price was so small. I was preaching that you could have even purchased a Kraken for 15 billion. And a lot of the bigger banks have 15 billion. Right? So when you think about this, it's so you're doing business with them, but you didn't buy them, so somebody else can swoop in and buy them. And now you're in business with that company. Tell me that's not interesting. If I'm a bank and I'm doing business with a company like Zero Hash, pretend I'm SoFi and I'm doing business with Zero Hash, right? I've invested, 50, 100 million, whatever the number is. But I didn't buy them. I just invested a little bit and we're doing business. That's awesome. Until I realize, holy moly, MasterCard swoops in, snatches it, and then what happens? Now MasterCard is a competitor, direct competitor to what we're trying to do. Ooh. And think about all the services that Zero Hash can put forward and companies like Zero Hash. Very interesting to me. Very, very interesting. So I am paying attention to that. Something else that happened. So Elizabeth Warren accused CZ of money laundering. CZ then turned around and said, "Oh, I'm going to sue you for defamation if you don't take that back." Well, Elizabeth Warren and her legal team said, no, number one, I'm a U.S. senator, and there are certain laws that apply to that. So you're not suing anybody. Two, I'm going off of what was in the documentation from the Department of Justice. Oh, dang. That hurt. She was like, "No, I have receipts. I have receipts. No. Go take a seat." So whether you like CZ or not, that's not a good position for him. It's not. And the reason why it's a big deal is not necessarily because everything that's going on between CZ and Elizabeth Warren. It's everything that's going on between the current regime and CZ. Oh, you're unfamiliar? Let me help you. So that $2 billion that happened to get the new regime's family stablecoin in the $2 billion range, supposedly that was arranged by CZ. And then CZ gets a pardon. Ouch. So pay to play? Don't know. I really don't know. But it seems peculiar. And that's what Elizabeth Warren is saying. And that's what a lot of people are saying. And that's probably why the new regime went on 60 Minutes to talk about that. And he didn't put the flames out. I think that conversation is going to continue. I think that narrative is going to continue. And I don't know that that's a good thing for him. It's not. But that's just me. That's just from my perspective. Right? So yeah, I think that conversation is going to continue to go. I think everything that's going on right now, something else that's going to affect, our bags. I want you to pay attention to naval troop movements in the Caribbean. That is something else that can affect our bags. Fabrication of a war could definitely do things, to change the narrative. But I would also say be careful, because creating a war, fabricating a war doesn't automatically give the new regime the powers to stop things from happening, because we're at war. Congress has to say we're at war. And if Congress does not say we're at war, it's an unjust war. Good morning, Rick Ritchie. Missed you, my man. So a lot of things are going on that are making people stop and go, yeah, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea at all. So there are a lot of things that are happening that are going to affect our bags. What else is going on? Hong Kong's HKMA launches its first FinTech 2030 strategy. And a part of that strategy, they're focusing on tokenization, AI, and blockchain. You've got to be paying attention to this stuff. It's not just Singapore, it's that whole Asian area that's really stepping up their tech game. And like I said, we live on a tiny blue marble. A tiny blue marble. Now, just on the AI side, everybody that's investing in AI, I need you to keep something in mind. Stitch, I know, but I'm busy. I'll let you outside in a few minutes, okay? Stitch can be a pain in the tail. He's such a freaking ham. If the AI market was so big, then why did Jensen introduce a computer that's about this big? The computer can sit right here on my hand, right? Why did he introduce a computer that comes with 128 gigs of shareable RAM that can run local models? It comes, out of the box with AI on it. And they're selling the box for $4,000. There's another company that's selling a similar box for $2,000. Yeah, NVIDIA came way late to the game. At $4,000, I wouldn't buy it. But that $2,000 box, I would absolutely buy it. As a matter of fact, we did. Right? But looking at it, I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, you've got to be paying attention to this, because why would you be coming out with a small box that can be inside everybody's hands? We're talking about the box right now is big, but they're putting that same tech into laptops. I told you I have a mini version right here. So if that's the case, and I'm putting AI in the hands of everybody, what does that do for OpenAI and other AI firms? I need you to think about that. Do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. If you're paying attention, if you're listening, if you're educating yourself, right? That's your first investment. You're going to pay attention to, wait a minute. Yeah, so why do we need all those huge data centers? If I can now do AI locally on my machine and get basically everything I need? Wait a minute. Whoa. Hold on now. Yeah, I can do my own graphics. I get the text. I can have it read images. I could have it read video. Why would I continue paying for all of those other models? So NVIDIA seems to be playing both ends of the spectrum, no? Yeah, interesting to me. So if you're in AI, if you're interested in AI, pay attention to that. If you're an investor in that space, be mindful of what you're investing in. Because I think over the next 2 or 3 years, I'm going to be looking at OpenAI and giggling. Because when they're talking about that bubble, OpenAI is the only one that's standalone, right? Isn't OpenAI the only one that might be the only one? Maybe there are two, maybe Anthropic. No, I think OpenAI is the only one that's their whole business. That's their whole business model. I believe the rest of them all have other businesses. They're all subsidized by other businesses within their conglomerate. For OpenAI, that's the only thing. Even still, I think that market disappears. Not totally disappears, but it diminishes hugely. So pay attention, do some research. Like I said, do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. Pay attention to those things. Because I don't need to pay $200 to be on OpenAI when I can run it locally and have a better model than what they have. As good, if not better. Better, why? Because it doesn't cost me anything. Turning on your laptop, turning on your desktop, that's the power consumption. That's it. That's it. So we don't need all that power? No. They might need it for a business model that says they need to be up and running 24/7, But I think that number diminishes over time. I don't need your 24/7 operation because I have my own. That's reliable. That isn't getting tweaked and touched every 2 seconds. So I have to go and adjust my prompts every 2 seconds. I don't have to do that. Reliability is a big deal. Bitcoin miners deposited 210,000 Bitcoin in October alone. And that's just on Binance. Why? They need money to buy more equipment, right? Which is why you kept seeing Bitcoin being pressured lower. They need money to buy equipment because they want to be in the AI space. Because some big companies are going to wind up sticking with that model until they implement their own tools. Why? Because they need the compute. Us regular people, small businesses, they don't need that. We need people that know how to do it, but we don't need that kind of compute. More stuff to contemplate. What else is going on? U.S.-China relations is at a truce, still affecting India. Like I said, I'm rushing now because I want to get to the numbers. Institutional Bitcoin purchases fell below the daily mining number for the first time in 7 months. Let that wash over you for a minute. That's nuts. Cool, but still nuts. Still nuts. But anyway, you know what we should do? That's right. We should get into the numbers. So let me get this out of the way. Get over here, get my notes out of the way. And you can see Dow is up 27 or expected to open up 27 above. S&P expected to open up 24.25 above. And then NASDAQ futures expected to open up 157.25 above. Right? Oil is down 0.33. US 10-year is down 0.014. I'm going to be paying attention to all of the news that's happening on the stock markets today, because of that $29.4 billion injection into the repo market, which is where banks go to get cash. So I'm going to be paying attention for that. Whatever happens in that space, I'm going to be listening. You know, it's a big deal when the opening line from CNBC is about that injection. Just saying. Earnings reports. What do we have going on this week? Palantir. Actually, hold on. Let's do this week. Palantir Advanced Micro Devices, which is called AMD. Shopify, that's going to be big. McDonald's, AppLovin is going to be a big one. Uber, who else? Qualcomm, another chip maker. ARM, another chip maker. Amgen, Pfizer, Spotify, Robinhood. So we have a lot of markets that to this week. I hope we're not going to get any of these numbers anymore until the government decides to reopen, until the government decides to get their butts back to work. Amazing, right? Huh. Anyway, what else do we have? Crypto Fear and Greed Index is at 42. We're still in fear, just not deep fear or extreme fear. DeFi Llama, we've got $145.863 billion in total value locked, well below my $150 billion number. You know that doesn't make me happy. Not at all. So yeah, we've got to get back to that. Bitcoin right now, oh man, Bitcoin right now is taking it on the chin at 107. We're well below my 109.337 number. Remember, my band goes from 109.337 to 123.092. And currently Bitcoin is at 107. That's not a good look. And I'm going to tell you about a lucky story. You guys know that I've been playing around with Aster. So I had a trade on Aster at $1. Remember, I told you I had set the number at $1. It was trading up a bit, and it took a long time for that to happen. Then all of a sudden, Aster dropped. Aster dropped to like 90 something cents. So I was able to get in on my $1. Not upset that I didn't get in at 91. Not upset over the past couple of days that I didn't get in at the 86 that it was at. Not upset at all. Aster went up last night to $1.20. So I immediately executed and made my 20% profit. And then it dropped down to 107. I think at one point it was down to 103. I'm waiting. That's right. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it to drop again. The reason why I blew up so quickly, CZ let it be known that he bought 2.3 million shares, 2.3 million coins. Yeah. That's why. So for me, it's only a matter of time before Aster goes back to where it was, because Aster is backed by CZ. I don't care what anybody says. CZ carries a lot of weight. But it also tells me that as much as I like Aster, I'm not giving up my bag on Hyperliquid. That's what I'm talking about. Coin 360, you're looking at all these numbers being down hard. Look at Solana down to 175 when it had been playing at the 200 level. Interesting, right? So you've got BTC, BNB, Sol, XRP, ETH, XLM, SUI, Avalanche, Cardano. Cardano's down to 57 cents. That's huge. You just have I just see a lot of things that I'm interested in right now. Link right now to me looks delicious at $16, because $1.60, right, would put me at $17.68. That's a 10% rise. If it hits 18, that could be a 20% rise. So why wouldn't I get in on Link at this number when I know it's worth well more than that? Well more than that. Sprinkle, sprinkle, baby. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Because what do? I sprinkle into things that I believe are a part of the connective tissue. And Chainlink is absolutely a part of that connective tissue. So every time I'm rattling off, different names, it's not for you guys necessarily. It's for me. Because I'm the one that's going to be in here going, okay, what did I want to buy? BTC, ETH, BCH. BNB, I'm not really into Sol, but I can see how Solana can make money for me right now. SUI, Avalanche, Cardano, XLM, LTC, even DOT if you're paying attention. Doge can make me money. SHIB can make me money. Aave, Uni, Link, obviously. XRP, Hype, HBAR, Mantle, MNT, Toncoin. Obviously, I'm missing a few, but there are a lot of coins in the top 25, in the top 50 that I could be investing in that'll make me money. So what do I have to do? I have to play the numbers game, right? And use my GMB X factor to help me figure out how much perspective, how much money do I think I can make within what time frames. Some time frames might be longer than others, and I'll make that determination whether or not I want to get into it, whether or not it's a hodl move or a trade move, given certain time frames, right? Because I want to understand what time frame I can make this. Is it going to shoot up and then come back down? Am I playing the volatility, or am I playing the long hand and keep going with that? Because when you're playing the long game, you think differently than when you're playing the short game. So I use math to help me play the short game, and I use a different kind of math to help me play the long game. Anyway, everybody, this is Eddie J on Crypto for GrowMyBag.tv. Hope you like what I'm doing. If you do me a favor, smash the likes, tell your friends about us, because this is a different kind of community. And I'll be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Crypto Overflow, where we'll be talking about this and a whole bunch of other topics. And hopefully today we'll have a lot of stuff to show you guys. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And as always, thank you for your trust. Everybody have a great day. See you later. Bye-bye.